I've never looked at cannabis as being a bad thing. I never really thought of myself as disproportionately impacted until I became arrested. I was like, wait a minute. I was pulled over in a car when it happened, and there were 2 other passengers who were Caucasian, and they had cannabis as well, but I was the only one arrested. African Americans and Caucasians both use cannabis at similar rates, but African Americans are 3.7 times more likely to be arrested for the cannabis in use than their Caucasian counterparts. That's really shines a big light in seeing disproportionate impact in areas.
Marijuana legalization is legalizing a product that was used for decades to specifically harm and devastate certain communities, largely Black, Latinx, Indigenous communities. What's good is that the policy and regulations are very clear about that because they define the term as disproportionately harmed communities. And so that is people with drug convictions, and it's people from communities that studies show have been over-policed.
I passed all the criteria that they needed to be certified as an economic empowerment applicant. I've lived here in Quincy my whole life, which is one of the 29 areas of disproportionate impact. I was arrested as a senior in high school for nonviolent cannabis crime. The Cannabis Control Commission, the governing body for cannabis in Massachusetts, they just didn't do enough public awareness. That's what it really comes down to. I didn't see any newsletters. I didn't see any bulletins. You know, it's hard for them to advertise certain cannabis things, but stuff like that, they need to be at the forefront of and making very aware that, hey, this program is designed to help those who have been disproportionately impacted.
So the economic empowerment program was basically just prioritizing the review of certain applicants. But what it didn't take into account is if you think of it as a race, some people were already close to the finish line and some people were already at the beginning. It didn't help them to review where they were standing first because they were standing all the way at the back. Reviewing someone's license application is not enough. You need that technical assistance, you need that capital, you need all of the support before you get reviewed.
Well, the economic empowerment window is closed and I don't foresee that opening again. So I feel that they really tried to make sure the social equity program is up to par. And, you know, so I have a lot of good components to it. They give you expedited licensure, they waive your application fees, and they make certain license types exclusively to you, social equity applicant, for a couple of years, you know, so that's a good first step.
We have a legislative mandate to ensure that the industry is equitable, diverse, and that those communities that were disproportionately harmed by marijuana prohibition are full participants in the industry.
They granted me the economic empowerment license. We went to different cities and towns and stuff, and we realized how you gotta know people, basically. Truthfully, when economic empowerment first came out, I was pretty skeptical about it. I know it sounded good on paper, but I didn't know if it was really gonna be put to action. So I applied just to see how it would go. We had to really look at property and stuff, and then from that's when I realized through the municipality that economic empowerment is what it's cracked up to be compared to what the state wanted it to be.
The doors are officially open at Pure Oasis, Boston's first recreational pot shop. Pure Oasis is the first to benefit from the state's economic empowerment program.
The CCC may say it's a level playing field and that everyone is treated equally, or that there is a priority status. But the reality is that it took us longer to get over the hurdles because we didn't have the technical assistance, we didn't have the resources, we had to learn everything firsthand. So I don't know who is responsible for being the gatekeeper and making sure that there is equity across the lines for all applicants. I don't know if it's a CCC, I don't know if it's a zoning board, I don't know if it's a city, I don't know if it's a state.
There's economic empowerment, but that's not like minority owned. You could play it for what it is, but Black people actually operating cannabis businesses in Massachusetts, I think we got about 3 or 4.
Those who most were closest to the pain should be closest to the profits. And when you exclude those groups that were over-policed and hurt by the war on drugs, then you don't have generational wealth and you have this continued cycle of poverty. There has to be some mechanism, some circuit breaker that releases some of that opportunity and brings it back to communities harmed.